Jiang Chen had never expected this to happen to him. In this post-apocalyptic world, he suddenly found himself tied up in a chair by a beautiful blonde girl. He couldn't help but admire the girl's beauty, but she just angrily cracks a whip in her hand and demands to know his name and where he came from. She makes fun of his girly name, and when he tries to talk back, she slams her heel right beside his crotch, terrifying Jiang Chen. When she asks him where he came from, he lies and tells her that he came from the north. Why is she asking this? Well, she brings up and drinks the can of soda that she found on him. All she wants to know is where he found it. Jiang Chen hesitates since he really doesn't know how to explain it, which makes the girl threaten to step on his crotch one more time. The girl points her gun at Jiang Chen's head and threatens to murder him, but Jiang Chen retorts that he saved her life. The girl calms down, realizing that she might be crossing the line, and puts her gun back in her pocket. Jiang Chen tries to explain that he's not truly a bad guy and has no evil intentions. He's just from somewhere more affluent hoping to collect some useful stuff in the city. Moreover, he just saved her earlier from almost starving to death. The girl inquires and asks about what he could want from their destroyed city. All the supermarkets have been cleaned out and one wouldn't even be able to find a slice of bread to eat. Jiang Chen suggests to her that maybe they should work together. He needs a native guide to the city, and he can pay her generously. As a show of good faith, he asks the girl to dig into his pocket, and to her surprise, there is a fresh carrot in it. She hurriedly eats it while Jiang Chen explains that he has a lot more fresh vegetables like that. After a while, the girl introduces herself as Sun Jiao and accepts Jiang Chen's offer. However, she warns him one last time that if he asks for any unusual services, then she'll blow his head off. After promising that all he needs is an experienced guide, Sun Jiao asks Jiang Chen what he is looking for in the city. He reveals that what he's searching for is technology, just like the laser gun Sun Jiao is currently wielding and the portable computer attached to her arm. He explains that they couldn't make those things from where he came from, so he was hoping to find some of them in the deserted city. Sun Jiao gets suspicious at what he's saying, and she points out that many people could easily assemble and create their technology. She demands to know the truth from him. Jiang Chen quickly thinks of a lie and explains that their technology is more advanced when it comes to food production and transportation. However, their general technology is lacking in comparison. That's why he's there. Meanwhile, Sun Jiao also lists out what she wants in exchange for helping him. Jiang Chen gets nervous because he doesn't really have any idea what currency this world is currently using. Thankfully, the girl quickly tells him she can be paid through sea batteries, food, or crystals. Personally, she would prefer to be paid in food, especially the canned chicken curry Jiang Chen had earlier. Jiang Chen admits that he already ran out of those since she had already eaten it all earlier. Sun Jiao quickly gets angry and threatens to stomp on Jiang Chen again. A crying Jiang Chen finally relents and promises to pay her 10 cans of food per month. He would even take care of all her meals. With their negotiation complete, Sun Jiao unties Jiang Chen from his chair. Jiang Chen announces that this current hideout they're using will be their meeting place for now. Sun Jiao didn't want to because they were right in the middle of the city, but Jiang Chen insisted that it was the perfect place for them. Zombies and foreign creatures roam the streets outside, and everything is already in ruin. This is Jiang Chen's hometown, Wanghai City, in the year 2190. He, who had just graduated from college in 2017, shouldn't even be there. However, he had just traveled through time, and right now, he had traveled to a parallel universe just like Earth, but with monsters. Never in his wildest dreams could prepare Jiang Chen for having this powerful ability. As for the reason he has this power, well, it all started a few months ago. On this typical day, a strange beam of light was flying through space and is now falling towards Earth. In Wanghai City, on top of his apartment building, Jiang Chen is on a phone call with his mom. Just like a typical deadbeat son, he's calling to ask for money again while he's still looking for a job. His mom isn't happy with him and even points out how his cousin is already working for a high-tech enterprise right after graduation. If he's having trouble looking for jobs, his mom asks him to come home to their province and just help with the farm. After the stressful phone call, Jiang Chen opens a can of beer and ponders about his life. He's 23 years old, already a year after graduating, and he still doesn't have a decent job. His drunk self notices a green shooting star streaking across the horizon, so he decides to make a wish. He wishes for a comfortable job where he can finally reach the peak of his life. He laughs out loud while daydreaming about his successful future, but suddenly, the shooting star changes direction and is now heading straight for him. He He couldn't even react as the star charged at him and exploded in a fiery explosion. It may sound ridiculous, but this accident is what gave him his unique and powerful ability. After getting hit by the star, a strange symbol gets tattooed on his arm, giving him the powers of multiverse travel. A few days later, he discovered that if he absorbed 100 kilowatts of power, the spaces between the tattoos would fill up and requirements to perform a multiverse journey would be met. In addition to this world-traveling ability, the tattoo also contains an independent subspace, which is basically a storage dimension of roughly 1 cubic meter in size. Jiang Chen used his ability to visit different versions of Earth, since the butterfly effect states that any small changes could magnify infinitely and alter the course of the future. This would mean that our planet's future is extremely uncertain. This would also mean there's an infinite version of Earth where certain events changed it. On his first multiverse travel, Jiang Chen found himself transported into an abandoned house. After reading some newspapers strewn inside the house, Jiang Chen learned that he was still in Wanghai City, but it's now the year 2190. Nuclear war had ravaged the world, which produced uncontrolled mutation. He tries to look out the window to survey his surroundings, but he quickly hides as a strange, mutated creature walks past it. He realized that he might be in a very dangerous place, so he quickly multiverse traveled back to his own dimension. The tattoo was already drained after one trip, so he once again jams his fingers in the outlet to recharge it. After thinking about it, Jiang Chen discerns that there might be something precious back in the post-apocalyptic world, and he wants to explore it more. But first, he needs to prepare. He heads to the grocery store to stock up on non-perishable canned goods and other emergency supplies. After putting it all in his survival backpack, he travels back to the post-apocalyptic world. This time, the portal placed him in the middle of the destroyed city, but thankfully it was dead quiet. It seems that the zombies don't go out in broad daylight. However, he still must be extremely cautious since he doesn't know anything about this world yet. First, he needs to find a base. After walking around for a while, he spots a nearby building which looks to be the perfect space. It was separated from other structures with high walls and gates. After sneaking in, the door is locked, so he decides to go in through the window. The place looked deserted, and he was about to relax when someone abruptly grabbed his legs. He freaks out and kicks the person, but to his surprise, it was a beautiful woman. He picks up the woman and asks him what happened. The woman replies that she's dying of thirst, so Jiang Chen quickly drops her and retrieves his water bottle. After pouring some water down her mouth, the woman now tells him that she's starving, so he drops her once more to open some of his canned food. After feeding her, she quickly tied him up, which now led to his present situation. They had just finalized their partnership, and Sun Jiao is now barricading their building's front doors on Jiang Chen's orders. Even though he was just tied up earlier, Jiang Chen was thankful that he met someone with a conscience instead of a cannibal or slave trader. She asks him how he gets his supplies inside the city, but Jiang Chen assures her that she doesn't need to worry about that. While Sun Jiao continues her work, Jiang Chen's eyes wander around the room. Numerous expensive-looking paintings were hanging on the walls, but he realized that the people who painted those probably weren't even born yet, so they are worthless back in his world. What he really wants are the various high-tech gadgets Sun Jiao had with her. He picks one of the devices up and asks Sun Jiao about it. Sun Jiao explains to him that most electronic devices stopped working after the nuclear explosion, but they can still be repaired and can often be traded for useful things at survivor bases. Upon hearing her explanation, Jiang Chen concludes that since it's still made of stuff from before the nuclear war, then someone in his world must be able to produce this technology again and make him rich. If he trades some food for it, then everyone would want to be willing to trade technology with him. After all, in this post-apocalyptic world, people with technology skills must be many while the supply of food is low. Sun Jiao speaks up and points out that she doesn't understand why she needs to reinforce the doors. Brainless zombies wouldn't know they were inside if they kept quiet, and there were no powerful mutants in the area. However, Jiang Chen explains that they're reinforcing the doors against human intruders, not monsters. He plans to hang around the city for a while so they can use that place as their supply point. When Jiang Chen asks her if she has a map of the surrounding area, Sun Jiao asks for his iPad so she can just send it to him. When she notices that Jiang Chen has no idea what she's talking about, she shows him her wristwatch and explains that it's an iPad or EP. She commends Jiang Chen for traveling without one since it even protects you from radiation. She gives him the iPad she's wearing, and when Jiang Chen presses it, it lists out all his details including physical state, radiation level in abnormal state. She starts teasing him for having all his abilities lower than 20 points. Jiang Chen was about to start flirting back at her, but he realized that she might be too dangerous for that. Meanwhile, Sun Jiao also realizes that maybe she shouldn't offend her current employer who's going to feed her delicious food. Jiang Chen knows that this post-apocalyptic world is full of treasures waiting for him. Any of the simple civilian equipment here is already way ahead of all the technology back in his old world. However, it would be impractical and dangerous for him to bring these high-tech devices directly back and sell them. So instead, he announces to Sun Jiao that his first target is the gold of the city. In a post-apocalyptic world, gold should have zero value. Most survivors would prioritize food more than shiny metals. But for Jiang Chen, it's the only cashable thing. Sun Jiao tries to ask her why he wants gold, but he doesn't want to reveal that he's from another world yet. Thus, he instead gives her bread and promises to provide any other food she might need. For her lunch, he hands her canned food so she can eat it outside while she's out on missions. Sun Jiao stares longingly at the food. All her life, she had seen villains murdering their own kind for food in this wasteland. She had met cannibalistic bandits who tried to cook and eat her. For the first time in his life, she has now met a man who worries about her going hungry. She shyly thanks Jiang Chen for the food and promises to do her best to find the gold sitting in the city bank's vault. Their only problem now would be transporting all that gold back to their base. The EMP created by the nuclear blasts has destroyed most of the electronics in the city, including all the vehicles. Unless they get professional repairmen, there is no way to get a drivable car. Jiang Chen tells her that she should just focus on investigating her mission and come back before dark. Zombies get smarter when the sun goes down. With her mission parameters laid out, Sun Jiao packs all her stuff and heads out of their base. Before she leaves, Jiang Chen asks to see her EP status, and to his utter shock, all her abilities are more than 40 points, double his own. She also has different kinds of vaccines. A few minutes after she leaves, Jiang Chen also activates his powers and travels back to Earth. He was about to recharge his powers at his outlet again, but he realized that it would take too much time. If Sun Jiao returns and finds him missing, there will be trouble. Instead, he sneaks into their building's main electric circuit breaker and absorbs the electricity from there. Unfortunately, this caused their whole building to short-circuit and lose electricity. Before the angry residents could find him, he fled back to his room. He realizes that he should first find a solution to his charging problem. He can try modifying his apartment circuit, but the abnormally high power consumption would surely attract unwanted attention. He sincerely wishes that he can find something else to replace electricity as his source of power. Jiang Chen also reads through his EP wristwatch and finds out that he will need to stock it with iodine if he wants to control his body's radiation level. He tries putting some iodine tincture on it, and he happily learns that it works. After his stressful excursion in the other world, he decides that he needs to eat first if he wants to think of a plan. Using his cooking skills, he manages to create a very delicious meal from simple ingredients. While eating, he couldn't help but wonder how much gold his food would trade for in the other world. He refills his bag with supplies and heads back to the other world. Surprisingly, his multiversal jump only drains some of his tattoo's charge. Did its maximum capacity increase because he charged it on a stronger source? He decides to not think about it anymore, but instead explore the house more. In the kitchen, he finds the main power switch, and upon switching it on, the kitchen's appliances all surprisingly turn on. Futuristic technology truly is awesome. Jiang Chen notices some movement outside, but when he looks at it through his binoculars, it is only Sun Jiao returning from her mission. She was jumping up the gate when Jiang Chen abruptly pressed the button and opened it, causing her to fall. She angrily punches Jiang Chen, but reports that she managed to clear the bank of zombies. The bank's vaults are sealed, but she did retrieve some gold bars from the VIP room. She throws the bag of gold to Jiang Chen, who can't even lift it. In exchange, he throws her a can of soda, which she happily drinks. After settling back inside their base, they discuss their next plan of action. If they want to blow the vault wide open, they will need some powerful explosives or highly skilled hackers. They can find these two in survivor bases like Leading Town. However, it is a slightly expensive town compared to others nearer to them. Except for residents and laborers, visitors must pay 1 energy unit's worth of crystals or items of equivalent value to enter. Of course, this once again doesn't make any sense to Jiang Chen. To explain further, Sun Jiao pulls out an energy crystal and shows it to him. Only formidable mutants are capable of crystallizing it on the back of their heads, and these crystals contain energy units. The one she has currently had 37 energy units, and he can check it using his EP watch. If possible, she doesn't want to bump into more formidable mutants for the time being. Jiang Chen picks up the crystal, while Sun Jiao further elucidates how one energy unit of crystal is equal to 1/10 of a box of canned meat or half a box of crappy canned food. It can also be converted to 10 tubes of nutrient solutions, 1 C-type battery, or 3 energy weapon clips. In summary, there are so many things that can be exchanged with, and is the de facto currency at many survivor bases. Jiang Chen also notices that the crystal also charges his tattoo. He offers 4 cans of food for 37 energy units of crystals, which Sun Jiao of course easily accepts. After the transaction, she advises him not to trade at a loss with others because they might take advantage of him. Although 10 energy units of crystals are worth a can of food, it also depends on what kind of food. The canned foods in survivor bases are mostly mutant fish meat, some with sand or human meat even mixed in them. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen's canned foods are chicken curry, braised beef, and many others. These are delicacies that even she had never tasted before. In fact, she once tasted mutant cow beef, a rare food that is wanted by everyone. Even though it was dry, she found it extremely satisfying. Jiang Chen thanks her for her advice, but he also realizes something. He is pathetically weak in this world. If Sun Jiao tries to take his food by force, he has no chance against her. He looks at the gold bars he gained and wonders if he should stop while he's ahead. It's already a lot of treasure, and if he stays for longer, he can be made into a can of food, mutate due to radiation, or just normally die on the streets. Thankfully, Sun Jiao speaks up and informs him that since he's her employer, she will also ensure his safety and make sure he doesn't get tricked by people. After all, if he loses his wealth, it would also be a problem for her. Jiang Chen smiles warmly at her kind offer. Meanwhile, Sun Jiao gets distracted when she opens the refrigerator and sees all the food that Jiang Chen has brought with him. Thus, Jiang Chen announces that they shouldn't eat canned food all the time, so for tonight, he'll cook for her to celebrate his first employee. He hands her some tomatoes and announces that for tonight, they will be eating tomato fried eggs. In the past, Sun Jiao had lived happily with her family even though they were in poverty. Compared to the nuclear winter outside, the inside of their home was warm with her parents and little sister. She only learned later in her life that a lot of mercenary groups specifically target newly opened shelters like theirs. They took advantage of the remaining kindness that the people in the shelter had and robbed them of everything. Ever since that incident, she gradually grew up and became the qualified and battle-hardened wasteland survivor she is today. Her sad thoughts were then interrupted when Jiang Chen suddenly scolded her for chopping the tomatoes too hard. He explains to her that they should be gentle with the ingredients so that they can draw and pour their heart into each cooking process. Only then can they be rewarded with a scrumptious dish. They then feast on the eggs, and Sun Jiao can't help but point out that Jiang Chen seems to be someone who came straight out of a fairy tale. In the books she read as a child, stories where everyone lives happily, has families and friends, are called fairy tales. And Jiang Chen seems to be from that kind of place. Jiang Chen ponders her words and leaves the table. When he returns, he deposits multiple cans of beer on the table and invites Sun Jiao to drink with him. At first, Sun Jiao didn't like the taste of beer, but Jiang Chen explained that it would help them get everything out. After drinking a few cans, Jiang Chen starts telling her about how harsh Earth is. They might not have mutants, but the monster called graduation is the bane of all college students. It drains their money and will to live while forcing them to live in a completely unfamiliar city. They then must go find work and have bosses who will torture them their whole working lives. Sun Jiao drunkenly announces that with her physical stats, she wouldn't let anyone torture her. A few seconds later, they scuffle with each other, and in their drunken states, they spend the night together. The next morning, the two head out of their base. Jiang Chen looks at the overcast clouds above them and wonders if it's about to rain, prompting Sun Jiao to point out that those aren't clouds but radiation dust. Thankfully, they don't have to worry about radiation if there's iodine in their EP. They would only need protective suits when going through high radiation areas like reactors in former government buildings. Jiang Chen didn't want to go out of their base, but Sun Jiao convinced him that he needed to learn how to protect himself. That means he should accompany her to a nearby survival camp and learn about the world. As they near a zombie-infested area, she prompts Jiang Chen to hold out his weapon. Her own weapon is the laser rifle, the best option when fighting zombies thanks to its low noise and high accuracy. However, it would be better for Jiang Chen to use kinetic weapons first to familiarize himself with shooting. His assault rifle might not be the most accurate, but its power and reliability are better than laser weapons. They walk past various large mutant animals, but Sun Jiao assures him that they won't be attacked. Not all creatures are aggressive. The giant rats might be huge, but they still have an innate fear of humans. The cockroaches won't attack living things either. As for zombies, they stop moving during the day because the mutant cells on the back of their heads require a stable environment to carry out photosynthesis. The real danger to the two of them is the carnivores. They usually feed on zombies and other mutant animals, but they also eat humans. Lastly, the other dangerous enemies are other humans. If someone aims at their heads, he should fire back at once. Jiang Chen is starting to realize how dangerous their situation really is when Sun Jiao suddenly quiets him down. As they enter another section of the city, Sun Jiao mentions how something seems off. All the mutants nearby have slowly disappeared, which only means one thing. Something else more powerful is most likely around. Suddenly, a loud explosion reverberates in the distance and the sound of battle fills the air. Sun Jiao quickly runs toward the noise, making Jiang Chen shout at her that they should run in the opposite direction. However, she was already so far away that he had no choice but to follow. Meanwhile, a group of soldiers are trying to fight a building-sized mutant. They focus their firepower on the monster, but it doesn't seem to have any effect. On the other hand, just a swipe from one of the mutant's many tentacles was enough to blast one of them back onto a wall. The large mutant is called a meat mountain, and Sun Jiao wonders why such a mutant suddenly showed up here. One of the soldiers' cannons fires a rocket at the meat monster, taking out a large chunk of its neck, but this just seemed to anger the meat monster more, who lets out a terrifying roar. The soldier's cannon fired another round, this time directly hitting the meat monster in the head. Its head explodes and the meat monster topples to the ground dead. The meat monster's thick fat is almost impervious to all individual weapons, while its bad habit of hurling things at enemies makes it a terrifying foe. The soldier's anti-tank cannon is one of the few things that could destroy the big guy. Jiang Chen wonders why they need to destroy the mutant in the first place, so Jiang Chen explains that the soldiers are probably collecting crystals. Other than that, the fat of the meat mountain can be used as fertilizers or can be added to nutrient solutions. The thought of eating any part of the monster makes Jiang Chen want to barf, but Sun Jiao calls out to him and tells him to hurry up. When one of the soldiers spots them, they welcome them to their survivor base named 6th Street and ask for their gene code. Gene code is basically the unique identifier of people that the EP can show. In the post-apocalyptic world, it is used as one's ID. Many survival camps that have law and order perform an inspection of gene codes before letting people enter. This is so they can arrest criminals who have violated laws before and to ensure the safety of the camp. After the soldier checks their identity, the gate opens and the two enter Jiang Chen's first survivor camp. It was the first time he saw civilization in a post-apocalyptic world, and he can only conclude that it looks abnormal. The level of technology everyone has seems disproportionate. One soldier seems normal carrying a rifle while smoking a cigarette, while another merchant is calculating goods through a hologram computer. People with missing limbs seem abundant, but some of them use canes while others are equipped with cybernetic enhancements that are more agile than human legs. The living standards are also disproportionate. Numerous men and women looking like bags of bones litter the street. Sun Jiao explains to him that 6th Street's laws are very simple. Murder and theft are punishable by shooting, tax fraud results in eviction, and intentional harm lands one in jail. What catches Jiang Chen's attention is when someone abruptly hits one of the skinny beggars on the streets with a baton. He was just about to intervene when Sun Jiao stopped him. He angrily asks why the guy wasn't shot if murder wasn't allowed, but Sun Jiao points out that the guy wielding the baton is the inspector responsible for cleaning up corpses in the slums. She then leads Jiang Chen deeper into the base. Since they're just going to exchange some useful stuff, they should just head to the external market instead of entering the expensive inner circle. Even though the external market is filthy, it's still better than the slums. Thieves or criminals shot dead will have their bodies dragged to the farm where they will be used as fertilizers. Some of the more famous thieves would be coated in formalin and nailed on wood as a warning to other criminals. Along the way, Jiang Chen sees a group of dejected-looking girls with collars on their necks and barcodes on their chests. A merchant was selling them and bartering with robot buyers. The robot buyers then led the slave girls into a truck and sent them on their way. Sun Jiao angrily watches the spectacle and voices out how disgusted she is that the girls would probably be sent to New Ray Hotel. It might be called a hotel, but it's a whorehouse that takes pride in providing all kinds of services to its clientele. As for the slave merchant, he's probably from the force that had seized Shelter 101. A shelter is a strange establishment in the post-apocalyptic world. Each shelter has its own unique design philosophy, but their main goal is to ensure a maximum survival rate. Sun Jiao was born in Shelter 071, where their design philosophy is that everything is standardized, including procedures and people's behavior. Although their lives were rigid, she was happy. Some of the shelters were not as lucky as hers. In Shelter 070, it was rumored that the design philosophy was to govern by motivating people through creating a spiritual leader. Unfortunately, it didn't even last 10 years. The spiritual leader and model of virtue abandoned his morals and converted the shelter into a tribe. He then got rid of all the males, leaving only the females as his. As for Shelter 101, where the slave merchant probably gets his slaves, it is a humanless shelter. Instead of storing humans, it stores the DNA of the elite people in the past. At the end of the lockdown period, the embryo culture tanks inside the shelter are then activated and the perfect bodies are created. These bodies then gain decades worth of memories in a short amount of time using virtual systems. The slave merchant is probably using these embryo culture tanks to produce slaves. A few minutes later, they finally reach the external market where a trading robot greets them. The trading robot's job is to evaluate the prices of goods that meet the needs of the camp. The trading robot is supposed to be emotionless, but even it is surprised when Jiang Chen shows it the items he is planning to sell. The robot scans the item and learns that the canned food is completely radiation-free, something that would be impossible in the wasteland. Not only that, it also contains what pre-war humans called fresh beef. The robot asks Jiang Chen if he has more products like this, and Jiang Chen happily replies that he does. Therefore, he was immediately treated as a VIP and was sent to their VIP room. In the VIP room, an extremely beautiful woman welcomes Jiang Chen. As Jiang Chen surveys the tear room, the woman and Sun Jiao exchange glances, with Sun Jiao smirking while the woman sighs in exasperation. An hour later, Jiang Chen and Sun Jiao exited the VIP room. Sun Jiao was disappointed that they only got 50 crystals for each can of food, but it was fine with Jiang Chen. She tries to explain to him that his food is luxury goods, meaning that they can easily get paid double for it in the inner circle, but Jiang Chen's only concern is that one crystal can charge his tattoo up to 30%. He could just get more food from back on Earth. Sun Jiao also smiles and reveals that the VIP room isn't just a place to exchange valuable goods. It's where special clients get special services. In fact, if she wasn't with Jiang Chen, he would probably get the full service earlier. Jiang Chen controls his blush and replies to her that he just wants her. In response, she abruptly kisses him. But it wasn't for the reason he thought. Someone was following them, so she pretended they were lovers to make them seem less threatening. They then head to their next destination, the clinic. Inside, the doctor injects Jiang Chen with different vaccines. These include the Type T vaccine, which will prevent zombie infections, and a multitude of gene-enhancing shots. It was a bit costly, but Jiang Chen was rich and it was a necessity. Afterward, Sun Jiao leads him to a firearm store before retiring for the night in one of the hotels in the inner circle of the base. A few hours later, an intruder is now tied up on the floor of Jiang Chen and Sun Jiao's hotel room as they discuss what to do with the intruder. According to the laws of the base, they have the right to shoot intruders without asking for any reason. And so, Sun Jiao puts her pistol directly at the intruder's forehead and asks him who sent him. To know what has led to this scenario, we must go back to about half an hour ago. Jiang Chen was just peacefully eating some canned fruits while Sun Jiao abruptly disappeared somewhere. And then, a tied-up body was tossed inside their window with Sun Jiao climbing after him. The intruder was crying and exclaiming that kidnapping is against the law, but Sun Jiao points out his attire marks him as a refugee. Therefore, he has no reason to be in the prosperous district where their hotel is. She then points her pistol at the intruder's crotch and orders him to reveal everything he knows. The intruder panics and confesses that he truly doesn't know anything. Sun Jiao was about to shoot him when Jiang Chen abruptly stopped her. He cheerfully explains to the intruder that he doesn't want to solve problems with violence, but if he won't stop pretending to be dumb, then Jiang Chen himself would feed the intruder to the mutant dogs. Of course, if the intruder instead chooses to cooperate, he would be willing to give him a crystal worth 100 energy units. This immediately changes the intruder's allegiance, and he reveals that it was the Ash's mercenary corps that hired him to tail them. It all started when they went to the pawn shop. The Ash's boss saw how Jiang Chen had high-quality food, which translates to a lot of crystals. Seeing the opportunity, he and his men followed them to the VIP room and continued to watch them, determining if Jiang Chen truly was a lamb worth slaughtering. They saw that the VIP room's most beautiful woman was the one who serviced Jiang Chen, which further reinforces their belief that Jiang Chen is rich. However, the presence of Sun Jiao gave them pause, so they decided to watch a little bit longer to make sure they didn't piss off the wrong guy. He orders his men to get an informant while he continues tailing the two newcomers. No matter what, they cannot make any moves within the bounds of the 6th Street Survivor base. If they want to capture Jiang Chen, then they would have to do it outside the base. The Ash's boss followed and watched as Jiang Chen visited the clinic and the firearms store. When their informant arrived, which was the current intruder, he ordered him to tail the two strangers and warn them the moment they exited the city. That would be the moment they would pounce. If they succeed, he promised to pay the informant 5 units of crystals. The Ash's boss explains to his men that these newcomers truly seem to be lambs ready for slaughter. They bought bullets and firearms, which means no powerful force is backing them up. Anyone recognizable has their own production of firearms, so if these two were part of some group, then they wouldn't have to buy weapons. Instead, they spent crystals buying ammo, so these two must be just lucky scavengers that found some treasure in the wasteland. This is all the information the intruder revealed to Jiang Chen and Sun Jiao. He would happily trade the mercenary group for 100 units of energy, since that would ensure an extravagant lifestyle for him for at least a month. He was daydreaming about his happy future when the barrel of a gun suddenly rested on his forehead and blew his brains out. It was Jiang Chen who was shaking from the murder. The trauma of murdering someone truly affected him, so Sun Jiao tells him that he should leave the murdering to her. Jiang Chen resolutely states to Sun Jiao that he can't let her do all the murdering herself. He must get used to it too. In response, Sun Jiao hugged her warmly and promised to never leave him. From that moment on, Jiang Chen realizes that he couldn't really detach himself from this post-apocalyptic world. If he must go back to Earth, then he'll bring Sun Jiao with him. They then took a shower together, and Jiang Chen couldn't help but compliment how good his body now looks after the gene shot. Afterward, they have the hotel staff clean off the body. The concierge was very apologetic for letting an intruder get past their security and offered them a free dinner. However, they quickly reject him since anything Jiang Chen cooks is infinitely better than whatever they serve at their restaurant. Jiang Chen summons rice from his spatial storage space and cooks it in a rice cooker. Sun Jiao sees this, but she doesn't question it anymore since she knows Jiang Chen won't answer it anyway. They then start the feast, with the two of them easily obliterating all the food prepared. Jiang Chen was surprised that the pot of rice, which in the past was good enough for him for 3 days, was already empty after just one meal. It seems that the gene shot truly enhances everything about the human body, including its need for nutrients. After their dinner, they start discussing once more their bank heist. Sun Jiao projects the bank's blueprint and tells Jiang Chen the details. The bank is in a prosperous district of the city, meaning that its zombie density and radiation levels are extremely high. Moreover, the place is haunted by a dangerous mutant species. Sun Jiao continues her explanation, but she notices that Jiang Chen isn't listening. Instead, he was staring intently at the piece of technology creating the hologram. It looks like a normal pen, but Sun Jiao explains that it's a computer hologram. It's not as reliable as a wrist computer, but its performance is far superior. With Jiang Chen's curiosity out of the way, Sun Jiao shows him the dangerous mutant species she was talking about, a death claw. Death claws has a crystal index of 40 to 50, is fast and agile, and has a keen sense of smell. It is protected by a highly compact full-body armor, so normal kinetic bullets are incapable of causing it any real damage. In summary, the best thing to do when someone comes across a death claw is to run at once. Even though it's also very unlikely that you can escape. Death claws usually roam the places hit by nuclear bombs, but it wanders around the city too, hunting for zombies. To succeed in their bank-breaking mission, Sun Jiao suggests 2 options. 1, they can infiltrate the underground vault via a route she found and blast it open with explosives. The other option is to proceed to the main control room, hack into the system to gain authorization, and then follow the regular route into the vault, which they will open by using the combination lock. Jiang Chen was amazed at the details of Sun Jiao's maps. He was curious if it was also reliable, but Sun Jiao alleviated his worries by confessing that her information came from Leading Town. The town has the most complete map database in the region since they were able to download the data from pre-war satellites. Jiang Chen is always hearing about the Leading Town from her, so he asks her what exactly it is. Sun Jiao reveals that it's a survivor base and an aircraft carrier. With two plans presented before him, Jiang Chen now must decide. He decides that the first plan might be too dangerous. Blasting the vault open with explosives is not exactly a quiet activity. If they attract a whole street's worth of zombies, then there's no way they can escape. Jiang Chen agrees with this assessment since even though the zombies go dormant during the day, they still launch attacks upon receiving intense simulation. As for plan number 2, its main weakness is they don't have hackers. Unfortunately, Sun Jiao admits that she's also not that good at hacking. All she can do is shoot, which is all the skills one needs to survive in the wasteland. However, there are actually quite a few expert hackers, and they don't often live in the best conditions, so it doesn't cost a lot to hire one. In fact, they can hire some of them right here in the slums of 6th Street. All the people without combat skills live there. Now the only problem they have left is how to deal with the Ashes mercenary corps. In their eyes, Jiang Chen is still a big fat target. He also has a feeling that they would probably make their move when they're leaving the area or continue following them around until they become off guard. Jiang Chen thinks up a plan and whispers it to Sun Jiao, who is surprised at how badass it is. The next day, Jiang Chen heads out to the slums to speak to the employer there. It was the midst of summer, but the radiation dust was so thick that it seemed like winter for Jiang Chen. The employer in the slums bows to Jiang Chen and shows him the details of one of their expert hackers. Reading through the candidate's details, he noticed that it was the vice president of a pre-war technology company. He angrily points this out to the employer and demands that he wants one with technical knowledge, as the employer goes back to his computer to look for another candidate. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen looks at the employer and sees his high status in the base. The employer is also the boss of a canned food company, so he has a high influence. Jiang Chen decides that he'll buy the can factory in the future so that he doesn't have any more trouble with his food supply. He had to scrape off the production dates on the canned food he bought from Earth so nobody would get suspicious, but if he had his own factory, then he wouldn't have to do that anymore. Jiang Chen walks nearer to the fence surrounding the slums, and a few minutes later, the employer approaches him. He hands him a stack of papers with information on the technical experts they currently have. Jiang Chen reads through the papers and notices one peculiar thing. He asks the employer why all these people seem to be ex-convicts. The employer nervously laughs and apologizes. However, that's something he couldn't change. The employer explains that every person in the slums receives a subsistence allowance from the government of 6th Street, meaning they are technically the property of the base. The only ones permitted to be sold outside are either the worthless individuals incapable of labor or criminals. However, he assures Jiang Chen that the criminal will follow his every command. They will put an electronic collar on the employee which will explode if they don't follow their master's command. Jiang Chen realizes that he has no other choice, so he reads through the papers again. He was about to make his choice when the slum's guard suddenly pointed his gun near Jiang Chen and ordered one of the slum residents to stop. The slum resident was a young girl who is now clinging to Jiang Chen. The girl apologizes to Jiang Chen for eavesdropping on their conversation, but she begs him to buy her. She promises that she is good with computers. The guard picks up the girl and proceeds to bring her back inside the slums. Meanwhile, the employer profusely apologizes to Jiang Chen for allowing someone to bother him. Jiang Chen asks him what will happen to the girl now, and the employer informs him that she will be punished by being sent to the labor camp. Normally, people above the age of 16 wear bracelets that restrict exit from the slums, but the girl is underdeveloped for her age, so she doesn't have one. Jiang Chen then informs the employer that he decided to buy the girl. The girl would surely die if she was sent to the labor camp, and he was pretty sure that she wasn't some plant put there by the Ashes Corps. The employer tells him to return the next day to retrieve the girl and sign papers, but Jiang Chen promises to tip the guy if he can leave now with the girl. The employer readily agrees, and he runs back to process the papers. A few minutes later, he returns with the girl and a contract. Jiang Chen signs the contract and the employer happily leaves with the crystals in his pocket. Now Jiang Chen only must learn more about his newest employee. To start, the girl shyly introduces herself as Yao Yao. She tells him that she has achieved a B grade from the virtual education system in computing and she can do programming and hacking well. Jiang Chen teases her and asks her why she's still so poor she's good at what she does, but Yao Yao nervously points out that many people in the slums can do what she can too. However, she promises that even if her ability might not be the best, her potential will make sure that he won't lose money on her. Jiang Chen smiles at the cute girl and wraps her in his jacket. He then pets her on the head and asks her to follow me. The girl tears up from his kindness and happily walks beside him. Back at their hotel, Sun Jiao asks Jiang Chen if he truly likes girls so much that he even bought one. Jiang Chen defends his choice and points out that Yao Yao has the computing talent they need. He had already checked, and she should be safe from the influence of the Ashes Mercenary Corps. Of course, Sun Jiao wasn't satisfied with Jiang Chen's own interrogation, and she put her finger on Yao Yao's chin. She then asks her if she knows Zhou Goping. Yao Yao shakes her head and tells her she doesn't. Staring intently at her eyes, Sun Jiao discerns that she isn't lying. Next, she abruptly rips off Yao Yao's clothes and announces that she's going to search her body now. Jiang Chen hurriedly turns around and exits the room, while Sun Jiao checks the girl for transmission devices or weapons. When she was satisfied, she handed Yao Yao some clothes. Jiang Chen and Sun Jiao then introduced themselves and welcomed her to the team. He is about to remove her electrical collar, but strangely, Yao Yao retreats and tells him that she doesn't want it removed. Jiang Chen is confused by her reaction, but Yao Yao tells him that she is already blessed to have such a kind master. She hopes that he won't abandon her. Sun Jiao explains to Jiang Chen what Yao Yao meant. In their world, everything can happen, like siblings betraying each other or lovers murdering each other. If Jiang Chen removed Yao Yao's electrical collar, then Yao Yao would feel that Jiang Chen might start being on guard against her. Jiang Chen understood that his way of thinking might not be applicable in this cruel future. Yao Yao believes that if she continues wearing the collar, then Jiang Chen might feel more at ease. This would lessen her worry that she might get abandoned. Jiang Chen pats her on the head once more and agrees with her. While Yao Yao leaves with Sun Jiao to go take a bath, Jiang Chen decides that he would need to change his outlook. The people of this world, including the two girls, probably consider his kindness as something childish. In the bathroom, Sun Jiao also tries her best to ease Yao Yao's nervousness. She assures her that they treat their people well, and she also compliments Yao Yao's unblemished skin. Yao Yao reveals that her skin's good condition was because of the sleeping pod model II. It has the function of improving one's body condition. She entered the sleeping pod when she was 12, and although she probably spent 20 years in it, her actual body only grew by 2 years. Together with her 2 years living in 6th Street, the doctor informed her that her body age is 16 years old while her mental age is 14. Sun Jiao starts teasing her about how she's technically 32, so she'd be older than her. Yao Yao frowns and the two splashes around the bathtub. Outside the bathroom, Jiang Chen is preparing their dinner. He hears the commotion inside the bathroom, and he didn't expect that the two girls would get familiar with each other so quickly. When they exit the bath, Sun Jiao heads directly to the table to drink a can of soda and invites Yao Yao to eat with her. Seeing all the food prepared just for her, Yao Yao couldn't believe her eyes. The food looked plenty and delicious, most of it something she had never seen before. She bites her hand to make sure that she's not dreaming. Jiang Chen invited her to start eating before Sun Jiao could finish all the food. She sat down beside them with tears in her eyes, and for the first time in a long while, she felt what she could only describe as happiness. The next morning, the silence among the ruins outside 6th Street was interrupted by a loud explosion. Through its streets, Jiang Chen is running with Yao Yao in his arms. Meanwhile, Sun Jiao leads them through the maze of alleyways while mercenaries try to shoot at them from the rooftops. When they successfully escape, the mercenary curses and calls to their comrades on the other sections, informing them of their prey's location. At the same time, Sun Jiao is leading the others to the trap they have all prepared. Jiang Chen is amazed at how valiant Sun Jiao is despite her wearing heels. She could still easily run and jump around. Thankfully, everything is still going according to their plan. A few hours earlier, after they left the hotel, Jiang Chen and the others first headed over to the markets. There, they bought equipment for Yao Yao to do her hacking job. Yao Yao's smile could clearly be seen since his master was giving her her own equipment. After they exited the survivor base, Jiang Chen could already feel that he was being targeted. It seems that the gene shot not only increased his appetite and physical abilities, but also his senses as well. Sun Jiao advises them to ignore their stalkers and just follow the plan. One part of the city they were passing through is the perfect place for an ambush. Sun Jiao knows this and advises the others to stop while she surveys the surroundings. It was very quiet, but she still discerned the hidden mercenaries on the rooftops. She whispers to Jiang Chen to carry Yao Yao, pulls out a grenade, and tosses it into the street. When the grenade explodes, they quickly start running. After escaping the mercenaries from the rooftop, the group rests in an abandoned building. Jiang Chen pants heavily since even with his genetic modification, carrying a person along was still tough for his body. Meanwhile, Sun Jiao tells them that they should prepare for a face-off against the mercenaries. They worry that they might get buried under the rubble if their plans go awry, but Sun Jiao assures Jiang Chen that the mercenaries would likely be more careful than them. After all, they are after Jiang Chen's money, and not just to indiscriminately murder. Outside the building, the mercenary strike team is being led by a man named Renjia. They had trouble catching up with Jiang Chen and the girls because unlike them, they aren't enhanced with genetic drugs. Renjia wonders why a man would even waste money to inject his companions with such an expensive treatment. Nevertheless, they managed to corner their prey into an abandoned building. He was waiting for more of his men to arrive when out of nowhere, one of his soldiers fell dead with a bullet hole in his face. Jiang Chen and Sun Jiao start raining bullets down the street toward them, and Renjia dives for cover. Jiang Chen laughs while showering them with bullets like a crazy madman. Renjia couldn't believe that their prey was so rich that he was able to waste bullets by just shooting at someone in cover. Meanwhile, inside the building, Sun Jiao grabs hold of Jiang Chen and forces him to take cover. She scolds him for wasting bullets and shooting aimlessly. Jiang Chen sheepishly scratches his head and apologizes. He tells her that he used to play shooter games, so he couldn't hold back now that he got to shoot a real gun for the first time. They continue fighting back while Yao Yao crouches in the corner shaking in fear. As the firefight continues, Renjia's reinforcement finally arrives. It was a car with a machine gun mounted on top of it. The machine gun rains fire toward Jiang Chen's position, and Sun Jiao decides that they'd have to retreat now. Jiang Chen runs inside the building while Sun Jiao fires back at the enemies. When Sun Jiao was almost hit by a bullet, Renjia ordered his men to cease firing. Now that the guy has fled, they should at least capture the girl alive. The gunman stops shooting and shouts at Sun Jiao to surrender. In response, Sun Jiao shoots him directly in the throat, destroying him instantly. Renjia goes back into cover just as Sun Jiao throws a grenade at them. She then uses the ensuing explosion to run away unhindered. Deeper inside the building, there was a manhole where Jiang Chen and Yao Yao are now hiding in. Yao Yao was worried about Sun Jiao, but Jiang Chen assures her that Sun Jiao is even stronger than him. Yao Yao looks at their surroundings and determines that they are now in the drainage system. This is a part of Jiang Chen's plan. He noticed this place when looking at the map Sun Jiao had. There was an entrance leading to the drainage system in the middle of the building where they had the shootout. Although the manhole was previously sealed, Sun Jiao had removed the obstacles when she was there previously. And just in time, Sun Jiao also drops down into the tunnel. Meanwhile, Renjia is screaming at his men to go find the girl. They were baffled since their foes seemed to have just disappeared into thin air. He orders them to carefully scout the whole building. In the tunnels, Sun Jiao sits on Jiang Chen's shoulders so that she can carefully seal the manhole cover. She had also installed a bomb and gave Jiang Chen the remote control. Now the last thing they must do is to detonate the bomb and complete their plan. Jiang Chen convinces himself that in this world, he has no reason to feel sympathy for their pursuers' lives. After all, they are also after their own lives. Above, the mercenaries had found the manhole cover they escaped from. Renjia and his men crowd around the manhole cover as they attempt to open it up. They couldn't let their prey go since they had already lost a lot of their own men. One of the soldiers spots a bomb wrapped around the column of the building, and he tries to warn his boss. However, Renjia was too caught up in his plans for revenge. The soldier runs away from the building just in time because down below, Jiang Chen presses the detonator. Simultaneously, the bombs in the abandoned building and in the manhole cover explode, causing the whole building to collapse and crushing everyone inside. Back in the tunnels, Jiang Chen and the others continue their journey towards the bank. Jiang Chen wonders if the leader of the Ashes Mercenary Corps will now hunt them more fiercely after they just wiped out their entire raid team. Sun Jiao laughs and replies that they will surely die if they try to return to the 6th Street Survivor base. It doesn't matter, however, since they can just trade in other bases, or maybe they can even finish off the Ashes Corps themselves. As they continued walking through the tunnel, Yao Yao couldn't help but be afraid as rats and other animals scurried around them. Jiang Chen puffs out his chest and promises to protect her, while Sun Jiao makes fun of him for not even being able to accurately shoot one of the mercenaries earlier in the fight. The group continues to walk along while, unbeknownst to them, a monster picks up the rat behind them and viciously eats it. A few minutes later, Jiang Chen notices that his heart seems to be beating faster than usual. He keeps having an unlucky feeling, and he urges the others to hurry up, so they exit the tunnels faster. They were walking through one of the tunnels when out of nowhere, a hail of bullets was shot towards them. Thankfully, Sun Jiao pushes them away just as the bullets hit the wall. One of the bullets managed to go through Sun Jiao's arm, and it started bleeding profusely. She grabs hold of the wound while explaining to Jiang Chen that there are citizens who are dwelling in the dark underground channels. They specialize in living in the dark, and it seems that now they have targeted them as their next meal. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen is stunned and horrified upon seeing Sun Jiao bleeding in front of him. He realized that she was injured because she tried to save him, meaning it was all his fault. Sun Jiao tries to convince them to escape while she stays behind and deals with them, but Jiang Chen disagrees. He charges at the group of mutant humans and slams one of their heads into the ground. His eyes flash in fury and his fangs grow as he angrily exclaims to Sun Jiao that he will not leave her behind. Jiang Chen's unbridled rage fuels him as the group of mutant humans encircle and attack him. However, he fights them off with his own hands and gun, enraged at the thought that he can't even protect his own woman. On the side of the tunnel, Sun Jiao concernedly looks at the rampaging Jiang Chen, realizing that if this carries on, Jiang Chen might truly be in danger. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see the next part, comment below